Hi, Virgo. Right before I sat down to do this, there was this guy outside. I have a neighbor and the buildings are a little close together. And he's out on his porch and I hear him talking and he's like being mad loud. He's someone who's very loud sometimes. And it reminded me, and then I had to go do something else. Like, okay, wait, I won't start the reading. There's something, like I have to go fix something. And so I did that and I came back and now it's quiet. That's somewhat of a metaphor to what's happening with you guys being so lit up right now. Venus is in Virgo. Mars has went into Virgo just yesterday. And Mercury will be going into Virgo on the 11th. And then your season comes in. So Virgo and Mars both in Venus right now. So I almost wore a robe because it's like you're gonna be working all the time. It's like, or you feel like you're working all the time because Mars, Venus, Mercury's coming. You might feel like you can't stop thinking. You don't know what you feel, but things are moving and things are needing your decisions and you're needing to do this and do that and create here. Here's the thing. The devil first out actually is whatever's coming at you now, whatever is physically present in your life is exactly what you need to take care of. If there's a Capricorn in your life, they're the perfect example of what is happening with you. So for some of you, this is about understanding where in the physicality of life you have allowed yourself to become bogged down by getting somewhere because it's your season and there's a certain evaluation you may feel up against next month. Though there's so much that has changed and you've changed so much, and even though you don't see you're not feeling the end result, or you don't have quite a gauge on the end expectation, it's more about you understanding that the work that's necessary to be done is whatever is being put right in front of you. And for you, it's whatever you're running into in your mind. What is it, this thing that maybe you're trying to escape, but it keeps coming back to hit you? It's that you don't know the final outcome right now. Right now, you're in that very mutable earth building stages. Still, even though it's Leo season is going to draw upon these parts of you where you may be being too critical of yourself and you're not seeing the bigger picture and you're being very narrowly focused. The one thing about the way Capricorn works is like they'll get narrow focused, but then something will hit them to make them realize they need to be brought out of it. And normally it's them getting frustrated with not getting the result they want right when they figure it out. And and it's very cardinality. So like for Libras, it's like when they finally decide and know what they want, because it is a thing to an extent, depending on what we're talking about, they're like, okay, let's make it happen. Okay, cool. It still has moving pieces. Right now, there's so many moving pieces in your life that you kind of just have to go along with where you're at in all of those pieces. Because if you actually take a step back, what you might realize is all that you're up against is that you're just being pulled to exert yourself in every single one of these areas because they're all coming together. So if you actually take that step back and look, you can realize that in all of these different ways, you're actually in alignment. You're actually not constrained. You're actually going with the constraints, or wherever you're feeling frustrated, you're actually going with those moments because that's what's leading you to the next step. It's like any learning process. There is going to be, especially if there's this Saturnian feeling in your life, that the nitty gritty, and you're good at the fine details, but even you sometimes get annoyed and frustrated of the fine details and having to explain those things. So if you're not in the mood to explain or talk, and you have to talk that day and you have to explain things that day, you need to do something for yourself or get yourself in that zone to pull it off. Because if you don't, it's going to come out overly critical. Virgo and Moon and Venus here. It's going to come out overly critical, overly rationalized. There's still room for your brilliant intuition to come through, because that's actually, okay. What you'll realize is that you're actually in a great place. The frustration is just the change. It's the friction. It's that friction of stepping up. Not just building up, but you're stepping up, you're building up. Your season is coming up. And Venus in Virgo, Mars in Virgo makes you evaluate a lot. It also makes you way more detailed in what you think and how you feel. And yet there's this space that you can take a step back into to observe and look and feel like, and allow yourself to be content with where you're at now. Because ultimately the decisions and certain things you had to go through had to happen. And you know that. You had to make some hard calls and walk away from some things that just you may have felt like you were going to marry or be with this person. But there's these things where you had to be honest with yourself. And now because of that, you can actually, after getting through to yourself, after this, especially in the beginning of the month, it's going to feel like this clusterfuck almost. And you may feel like it's never going to release, especially with Mercury entering your sign on the 11th. But the thing is that this Three of Wands is drawing me, this Three of Wands and then the Nine of Cups. That specifically needs to be your outlet now, is understanding that even though you're in that fine detail oriented place, you need to make room for that larger picture, and feeling content about where you're at. I'm someone who loves watching the sunset and the sunrise simply for, there's a few things, I just love it, but there's a few things. When you look over the horizon at the wide grand scheme of things, or if you just sit back in your life, meditation is great. I advise to Aries, which is funny because I have to finish the reading. But there is something about sitting back and realizing, this is something I told myself as of recently, is like, in the grand scheme of your life, this is a small part. It just so happens that you're so in it that you're being forced to really remember it and be in it. You can't wish it away. You have to go through each step. The Empress, Hierophant, Taurus. Taurus likes to take steps too. You have to go through each step of what you walked away from, of what you moved on from. And you'll realize that, if you haven't already, that everything is connected, so it's intertwined. And what happens when things are so interconnected and intertwined with your values and what you want, because if there is a Taurus in your life that you're moving towards, and there's something about marriage here and you're walking towards, it seems like you had to walk away for a lot. There's a lot you walked away from to get to this point. It seems like there's been a lot of sacrifice on your end. And it's really, if this person doesn't know it or recognize it and value that about you, I would definitely take a step back maybe. And also notice that. We're going to pull some more cards, but ultimately, this is about you. What's going to happen is, it seems, because it's so... This is so Virgo shit. This is so Virgo. Let me tell you why. So much good can happen to a Virgo or someone with major Virgo placements. So much good could be happening. But while all of that is happening, there's something falling down right behind you. And that in itself is necessary for you to understand right now. Anything, if there's so much coming through in front of you and yet there's so much falling down behind you, let it fall. Let it fall. Those materials clearly couldn't have added up to what you're building here and what's coming in. You can probably take pieces from it and put it towards, why not? That's what you do. You're great at that. In the beginning of the month, you're gonna feel a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure to communicate, a lot of pressure to say this, say that, be critical, do, especially on yourself. First of all, break that, let's address yourself first. Whatever you can't control right now, can you bring yourself to a place of understanding that this frustration it's not going to last? So get frustrated, let it out, do what you need to do, scream, call a friend, fucking vent. Go do whatever that thing is that you need to do to exert all of that energy out with your body, Virgo. Let it out of your body. I like to just dance. There's a few things I like to do, but dancing and even aggressively really helps me. So that's going to help all of this friction, the 5 of Wands, become the 3 of Wands. So then you feel new. Then you have this fresh perspective all of a sudden. And you feel really calm in it. There's this very knowing place that you come to by the end of the month where when you look back, you knew what you walked away from because you knew you needed to be here. Virgo, one thing that you do is you're really reflective, and it's so easy to go and to reflect a lot. Leo season wants you to reflect for a moment. Leo season's like, we're living here today. We're not living in the past right now. We're living here. So can you be the Empress and live there? Can you still have all your values like the Hierophant? Can you still be so committed to those values and live in that place? Know that you may come to that place where all of a sudden this weird explosion that might make you feel like a child or feel like this is never going to ends. You get this peace. You look at the sky. You're like, oh, I'm brought down. Feelings, even though they're moving slow. This could also be Uranus is going to go in retrograde too on the 19th. So right before your season hits. So just know that it's like the storm came first, the calm came, and then the storm of your season, so the celebration. Also, happy birthday to the early Virgos. I have a few of those in my life. So if you're watching this, I love you. The High Priestess coming out next. So by the end of the month, it's more of just I'm going to stop there because the cards are just saying a lot of integrating what you're receiving. So when this all breaks from whatever happened in your past or whatever this moment is for you, and it seems pretty big for a lot of you, and it's fantastical almost. It's like, holy shit, this happens, and whoa, I'm here. Your season has a lot for you. Just as much as you're going to give, it's going to give to you in a different way. Is this the rest of the year going to be easy? Probably not. And that's for all of us. It just all depends on how you handle things moving forward and how you choose to be with each thing. So it's I just heard an interpretation, which I've also interpreted, but I want to give notice to this interpretation because I also feel the same way and was saying something to myself. And I actually was saying it to Aries. This, having all of these different placements in your sign gives, especially you, because you can do this so well, is to sit down with each of those parts that are in your sign and take a look at how you're communicating and communicate with it. How are you communicating via thought? How are you communicating via your throat? This is for you. which ultimately this is for other, but also for you. So this trickles down into here. Where are you not letting yourself feel, and where are you rationalizing? Because this high priestess is coming and it's like, you need to feel all of this. You need to sit with it. Empress Hierophant. It's just like very much like, so by the end of the month, you'll be very in tune with yourself in a very aligned spiritual way. And for some of you who have never been there, it's going to feel like a big moment. Bottom of the deck, the Magician. It's the moment you've been waiting for, and maybe you've thought it was going to be bigger. This one is pretty big. It's just, when truth reveals itself, there's a relaxed feeling. There's a deep sense of relaxation when you know. And that's that 3 of Wands, 9 of Cups. Come down to the High Priestess. There's this deep inner knowing by the end of the month that's going to reveal itself to you about how important, as someone who experiences these breaks and falls, who experiences Mercury so intimately, constantly retrograde, moving forward, then in retrograde, and different signs moving forward. Constantly you have this keen ability to have psychic insight in the physical realm, just as Capricorn does. Capricorn just a little more fine-tuned. You're that very important piece to the puzzle because you're the one who's refining. I know that I said that they're more sophisticated. You're always refining things. So it's like when you are actually in a place where you like what you do, it's like this play and it's like this game for you, because you're like, ooh, if I do this and then if I do this, it's like this whole experiment within itself. Even though you look for perfection, even though you're always perfect as you are, by the end of the month, it's going to become very, like, there's a lot of physical means being gained and being understood, but there's this deep inner knowing and spiritual groundedness that you haven't felt in probably a long time for most of you. And it might have to do with a conversation you even have with a Taurus, or a moment you have with yourself, maybe with a past partner or someone that you are partnering up with or want to marry. It also could be with this part of yourself that feels so much better about yourself because of everything you just went through. Like, there's this feeling and this sense of security within yourself in a way that, again, you may not have experienced in a long time by the end of the month. And it's because you let yourself go. You let yourself be imperfect. You let yourself deal. You made others deal because you needed to deal with yourself. So when you do that, eventually you come to this place of like, oh, I do know. I may be in an experimenting phase a lot, but there's something I do know here. And it's not that you never do. This is just bigger, especially in terms of the way you love. So that's where all of these Virgo placements, by the end of the month, it's going to dissipate, because then, changes are going to be made as well. Shortly after we enter your season, Mercury goes into Libra and then Mars. So then you get that relief. By the time Libra season comes, your season comes, there are more opportunities for love if you're single, or to bring your love closer if you're not. And we'll get into that into the extended more in next month. So what we're going to do next is go through the second part, and I'll start sharing this at the beginning. I keep forgetting. I get just so excited. So after this part, we go through the cards and we look at them together, especially for those of you who want to learn a lot of, I'm self-learned and then also I engage with different things, but I'm also highly intuitive. So this also, reading cards helps your intuition. Virgo, you have a deep sense of knowing, just saying. And then we'll go through the cards and the signs and more about how Leo season, and you're going to interact with Leo season in the extended reading, which will be on Patreon. And if you would like to book a reading with me one-on-one, that will be below. And if you'd like to donate to the channel, that will also be below. And And I think that's it. More to come, as always. I love you, and I'll see you in a second and then next month. Hi, Virgo. This is very much about how much faith you have in your ability to be as structured as Taurus and Capricorn. So being that like middle earth sign, it's like being somewhat like the middle child maybe, where things seem, things fall apart. But this is about you very much coming out of and gaining freedom from something that you've been fighting yourself for a while. This could also be whatever you could be getting into, an altercation or an argument or have words with a Capricorn or a father figure as well for some of you, which ultimately causes a breakthrough. This ultimately causes you to gain freedom where you needed it. So this friction in the beginning of the month is like, it's rubbing against like the parts of you that feel like you can't break free from something. And then whatever this causes, whatever comes of this, is exactly what you needed to see, it needed to happen in order to clear things up. So this friction, take away 2 wands, do some grounded math, right? It could be these just also different parts of yourself that are pulling on yourself. And in order to get to the 3 wands, you have to let go of these 2 different things that, yeah, you may like or whatever, but these 3 things need to come first. Ultimately, you holding yourself up. I've never really looked at the card this way, but he's holding on to the wand, and the other 2 are, kind of behind him. And yeah, that one's beside him, and he's the shepherd. This month you see a whole new horizon, and you stop fighting yourself about whatever didn't work or couldn't work even yesterday. And ultimately, eventually you calm down into this sense of, okay, I accept this, or you're coming to that point, which then without question is the equation of letting go and moving on. You finally realize where you are, and you look around and you're like, oh, this isn't that bad. This is actually really fucking wonderful. And I think that's what gets you out of your head. With all of these Virgo placements, I know that you might be in your head. And yet this feeling, this, whatever the situation or this conversation is, stimulates you, even if it's negative. Those things are important. Those negative emotions to become positive are so important, because it's not good nor bad. It's just we all experience these different negative emotions. The weight in which you experience them is different sometimes because of what you add to it, specifically you. So what comes from the release of pressure, as you know, is a fresh start. Is that, oh my God, finally I can surrender to this because it's gotten too tight. I focused too tightly. But it's that moment where you get to have a breath of fresh air this month. You're just being asked to surrender to what you thought your idea of where you would be right now is. Anytime is a good time to start over, and you're not starting over from like super scratch. You're just starting to see yourself very clearly, and also get very clear with your spiritual identity. That doesn't mean some of you may go into a religion for sure. But some of you may begin to question and be very much more connected to your spiritual nature and making decisions from that place even. It's being called for. This is that spiritual nature. This is the same thing in physical form. Taurus, Gemini, Taurus, Gemini, and then we have Sagittarius here at the bottom. So, and also the Magician mixing all of this together. You're questioning those things that come from all of this. It's not that you maybe have had bad morals or it's not your morality. It's just about what you want to believe in, how you want to set that structure. Because you can set the grounding structure, but you still need some type of faith. And that can look like many different things for you. That could ultimately mean that like you believe in your dreams, you believe in what you see for yourself. That's spiritual in itself. And this clearing up of all of this and listening to that more than anything everything becomes so much easier for a moment. And I know it's coming to your season, so you want to make decisions or you want to do this, but you're asking to like almost take a step back before your season. Like this is forcing you to. Like actually, it's yin. Even though Mars is pressing on you and Virgo is pressing on you, and not shortly later Virgo, and then the sun will be, everything. But this is actually becomes good for you in the beginning of the month, but then there's a break. There's that solid break where then you're like, I got everything in order. Just be careful because some people may not want to listen to you. People want to have fun this month too. But you know what fun is for you, and it's about all of this and experiencing it, like getting a full experience of a spiritual relationship with yourself before anyone else. If there are Tauruses in your life, it's very clear of what they want. And they might not have told you, but they will tell you how much they've walked away from. And then there's some serious contemplation that is going to be done on your end. You feel a renewed sense of responsibility. But this time, it looks different. This time, there's more freedom. And this time you move forward in a way that allows you that freedom all along the way, like Mercury wants to give you. But yet there's a grounded sense of stability here now, more than ever. And now building off of spiritual principles and bringing it into the structure is actually exactly what you didn't realize you might have been looking for, and you've been doing it all along, but this time there's just a different alignment in place. And you're really listening and you're taking in information, but you're also not bending over backwards. Boundaries. All right, Virgo. We'll go into the extended where we go through all of these and get more into your season. Ooh. And then there is more information to work with me one-on-one below. Okay? See you next month.